Welcome to Hidden America. In today's video, we're going to do an extensive case study on the top G himself, Andrew Tate, in the Occult Sciences. Tate often claims he did not cast a magic spell over his followers in the world in general, and he's right. Maybe not in a magic spell in the traditional cinematic sense, not the hocus-pocus bullshit we have been led to believe is magic, but undoubtedly, Tate is a magician. Tate is a sorcerer. Tate is the master of Wudan. Let's begin by looking at the similarities between the top G, Andrew Tate, and the Church of Satan founder, Anton LaVey. Let's start with the most obvious similarity, their look. The shaved head, the goatee or beard, the impressive posture. It is hyper-masculine, a domineering overall appearance. This is obviously done by design. Both men's appearance is intense, authoritative, and demands respect. Even if it is just subconsciously, it is effective. This is obviously done by design. Everything that Tate does is well planned. He is a chess master who is always thinking 10 moves ahead. All possibilities have already been accounted for and taken into consideration. Notice Tate's look immediately after his release from custody. He softened his appearance, grew out his hair and beard. This subtle change was important. Tate converted to Islam, donated to numerous charities, and he introduced his children into the picture. Tate needed to revamp his image. His image is everything to the Tate brand. The mystique of Tate is paramount, but there needs to be a level of mystery. Tate is the capstone on the Tate Pyramid. The next obvious similarity between Tate and LaVey is their demeanor. Their body language is tied into the whole package of his appearance, the Tate brand. Tate is composed, precise. Even before he speaks, the lure has been set. He appears calm but stoic, like a cobra ready to strike. In the early 1960s, LaVey recognized that the true satanic altar was already nearly in every home of every American, the television. But in today's day and age, instead of the television, Tate used YouTube and TikTok to mesmerize the world. All attention is good attention, and Tate understands this better than anyone else. In a short period of time, he was the most Googled man in the world. During the pandemic, Tate made a tweet regarding what Satanists call the revelation of the method. The revelation of the method is the occult belief by dark occultists that by revealing their intentions, no matter how dark, it absolves them of karmic retribution. If you are aware of their intentions, that puts the karma on you. Tate used the example of poisoned apples. If I sell you poisoned apples and don't tell you the apples are poisoned, shame on me. But if I tell you the apples are poisoned and you still buy my poisoned apples, well, now that is shame on you. The responsibility, burden, and karma has now left me and is squarely placed upon you. This is why the elites use pre-programming to avoid all karmic retribution. Tate understands this. Tate is a student of the occult sciences. He may not be initiated or part of an esoteric order, but he understands and respects the craft. This is easily confirmed by looking at the War Room, Tate's own secret society. Why join a secret society when you can start one yourself? This is what Tate has done. The War Room is the first digital cult. Tate is at the top of the pyramid. He is the teacher, master. He is the all-seeing eye. You can join the War Room, but you will always be beneath Tate. In order to actually meet their hero and leader, Tate invites you to begin on what he calls the white path. The War Room is not simply about making money and learning how to pick up women. It is a complete spiritual journey. Your journey towards enlightenment begins on the white path. In order to meet Tate, you must meet certain requirements. You must be willing to transform your psyche, body, and soul. You see, Morpheus can give you all the knowledge in the world, but you must be ready to receive this knowledge in order to properly apply this knowledge. The white path prepares you to receive this Tate-based gnosis. The white path seems to be comparable to the wet path in Tantra. This is obviously deliberate. Materialism, by definition, is a left-hand path, a popularized form of mass Satanism, so it can undoubtedly be argued that Tate is a practicing left-hand path magician. When you first join the war room, you are given access to a Discord server. Courses are offered, which must be paid for. Nothing is given out to free for the initiate. Everything must be earned. This is the outer court of the order. Tate calls this level of the war room the mess hall. The name says it all. This is where young, impressionable, military-age men use their last bit of resources to chase that sweet Tate dream of cars, money, woman, and financial freedom. In Masonry, there is 3 Blue Lodge degrees: Entered Apprentice, Fellow Craft, and Master Mason. The mess hall could be compared to the Entered Apprentice degree. You are initiated, but you are still green. You must continue on the white path in order to move up the Masonic pyramid. Most men never get past the outer court. Even in Masonry, a Master Mason is just the beginning of the journey. The Blue Lodge degrees are their way to make the initiate believes he understands the signs and symbols of Masonry, when in reality he has no clue. From there, the Mason chooses if he would like to continue his Masonic quest by joining either the York Rite or Scottish Rite. The Scottish Rite is where men become elevated to the level of sublime princes of the royal secret. These are the true adepts of the Masonic order. Now the true journey begins, and you are ready to receive the Masonic light. Tate has structured the war room in a similar way. It is a fraternity within a fraternity, and the war room is an elite group, Tate's inner circle. These are the sublime princes of the war room. Tate has chosen his inner circle very closely. Every candidate or initiated is closely vetted. Tate is the judge, jury, and executioner of the war room. He is the king, Tristan, the sublime prince. But as Tate says, the war room has a spiritual leader. Meet Iggy Semmelweis, the war room's master of spell and shadows, the resident Jew of the war room, a practitioner of Kabbalism and Jewish mysticism. Tate has gone as far as saying this man is the very essence of the war room. Iggy is a master hypnotist. Iggy is a master of Neurolinguistic programming. Remember when I said it wasn't a traditional magic spell, but Tate most definitely cast a spell on the unsuspecting masses. He literally mesmerized his audience, and Iggy is one of the main factors in the evolution of Emory Andrew Tate. Iggy could be seen as the missing capstone on the pyramid that is Tate. Tate is the face. Iggy is his ace up his sleeve. It's great to have brothers, but it's even better to have a master hypnotist. And it's important to remember that Andrew Tate's father was also a linguist. Let's rewind a little bit. Tate seems to have came out of nowhere, like he just miraculously appeared on the scene, but that is not the case. A few years back, Tate dipped his toe in the shallow pool of reality television and failed. He flopped. Why? Young Andrew lacked that it factor, the wow factor, that innate quality that literally makes anybody gravitate towards you, that animal magnetism. Most think that this is something that people are just born with, but I'm glad to tell you this is not the case. Tate is a student of the game of life. Tate understands the rules to the matrix, but at the time, he didn't quite understand how to manipulate these natural laws. But Tate, the eternal student, transformed himself from Emory's oldest son to COBRA TATE. Then with Iggy's help, his final form, the top G. He became the embodiment of the Adonis, hypermasculinity personified. Women wanted to sleep with him, and men wanted to be him. How did Tate do this? How did this miraculous transformation occur? Or should I say alchemical transmutation? Iggy taught Tate the art of hypnosis and neuro-linguistic programming. Tate learned how to use his speech in a magnetic way, literally hypnotic. His words are his sword. Tate unleashed his inner dragon. But let's start with the precursor to hypnosis and neuro-linguistic programming, animal magnetism. In the late 18th century, German doctor Franz Mesmer claimed that there was a universal magnetic fluid or force that could be found in and have a physical effect on all living things. Therefore, it was possible to manipulate this force. Mesmer called his theory animal magnetism. It is Franz Mesmer where we get the word mesmerize, which later transformed into hypnotize. Kabbalists call this force the astrolite. Hindus call it prana. The Chinese call it qi. Alchemists call it the ether, the universal life force, energy. It is important to note Mesmer chose the word animal because it comes from the Latin root animus, which means breath, specifying that this force was a quality that belonged to all creatures with breath. This is important in our case study on Tate the Occultist. Tate has learned to manipulate this occult force, specifically through his breath, his animus or speech. Tate's aura is now hypnotic to men and women alike. His speech or his breath is structured in such a way that it is mesmerizing. This is obviously done by design. Tate understands words cast spells. Tate has become a conduit of untapped masculinity to the soul of his unsuspecting audience, a strong male role model to a group of demoralized men and women. Tate uses different neurolinguistic tactics to imprint on the very subconscious of his audience. All of his hand gestures and movements are deliberate. Tate knows how to lure you in with shocking statements and words and then program whatever he wants into your literal soul. Science and magic is nearly indistinguishable. Magic is simply the science of the mind, how to manipulate the mind, mind control. Tate understands the energy or the inner G within, and this, my friend, is the lost key of Freemasonry. Hence, why Tate is designated the top G. G equals 33 after all. The 33rd degree in Masonry is the highest achievable degree in the Scottish Rite. This simple but clever name, the top G, shows that Tate understands the ethos of Freemasonry. What does the G represent in Masonry? The lower level degrees will tell you it means God or geometry, but those in the higher degrees know that it stands for generation or the generative principle. You see, Tate learned the lost master's word. This is the goal of the Mason, to discover the lost word of Hiram Abiff. But as J.D. Buck explains, the so-called lost master's word is not a word at all, but it refers to a force, a power, or energy resulting from careful training and spiritual development. This force, animal magnetism, or power or energy, is the universal life force. They showed you this force cinematically as the Force in Star Wars, but this force is very much real. It is the yin and yang of feng shui, prana, qi, the odic force of the Norse, the vril of the Nazis, this subtle force that Tate has mastered. Tate discovered the lost key of Masonry. In feng shui teachings, qi is the existence of an invisible fluid that nourishes all of space and animates all of life and gives certain characteristics and energy. In each being, there is yin and yang forces, positive and negative, male and female, solar and lunar. One of the most respected black magicians, Eliphas Levi, wrote, "There exists in nature a force which is immeasurably more powerful than steam, and a single man who is able to adapt and direct it might thereby change the face of the whole world." This force was known to the ancients. This force consists of a universal agent whose supreme law is equilibrium and whose direction is concerned immediately with the great arcanum of transcendental magic. This agent, which barely manifests itself under the trial and error of the disciplines of Mesmer, is exactly what the adepts of the Middle Age calls the first matter of the great work. Now, did you catch that? The disciplines of Mesmer, Franz Mesmer, who discovered animal magnetism in the 1700s. Animal magnetism is simply another name for this force, the top G, the generative principle. Tate's white path is truly the alchemical quest for the philosopher's stone. It is the great work. Eliphas Levi continues, the creative or generative principle is that mysterious force or energy which renews the earth in springtime and quickens all animated nature. That energy or power which perpetually dying renews itself in new, similar, yet different ways. This dynamic, procreative, productive power in nature and man, maintaining a perpetual self-identity, Masonry conceives of as the divine nature, as the deity immanent in nature, and it is this life force that is deified, venerated, and worshipped as the great architect of the universe, the generative or creative principle, what the Kabbalists call the astrolite, others call it the great magical agent, Azoth, Aether, Tetragrammaton, Anima Mundi, or Lucifer. Manly P. Hall explains, this force can be manipulated and controlled. When the Mason learns that the key to the warrior on the block is the proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mystery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands, and before he may step onward and upward, he must prove his ability to properly apply energy or inner G. How else does Tate control his energy? His own circuit. Tate constantly keeps his hands in a very specific mudra, the Uttara mudra. In his words, he does this to close the circuit. This is another way Tate focuses and controls his inner G. Magicians, Masons, Hindus, and others have used these mudras because they are extremely effective to control and manipulate energy. It is another form of neurolinguistic programming. As I mentioned, animal magnetism was the precursor to hypnosis in neurolinguistic programming, or NLP. What is NLP and where did it come from? Neurolinguistic programming is a way of changing someone's thoughts and behaviors to help achieve a desired outcome from them. It is a psychological approach that focuses on how you communicate with yourself and others and how this affects your behaviors and the behaviors of those around you. NLP has been defined as the user's manual for your mind. NLP gives insights into how our thinking patterns can affect every aspect of our life and the world around us. Most neurolinguistic programming techniques are done by individuals who use these tools covertly. It is 100% possible to put somebody in a full trance state without their consent or knowledge. Where did this come from? It began with Mesmer, then was refined by the Nazis, then perfected by our very own government. MKUltra was the test study to understand how the mind works and how it can be controlled. NLP was mastered in the 1970s by Richard Bandler. Not convinced Tate is smart enough to understand this? Upon entering the war room, you are given a list of required reading. This list includes Frogs into Princes and the Structure of Magic by Richard Bandler, the founder of NLP. So undoubtedly, Tate has mastered neurolinguistic programming, and this is clearly evident by watching any of his videos or podcast appearances. And listen, all advertising companies, politicians, the true enemies of mankind use NLP. So why shouldn't Tate, or you for that matter? Are you really naive enough to think that MKUltra just stopped? No, it was just perfected and turned on to the masses. You understand, Tate is worshipped like a god amongst men by his followers, his cult, his secret society. Again, this is all according to the plan. He is the conduit. The energy or attention he channels is funneled back in a constant loop into the interweb, the net, growing his audience and influence bigger and bigger. Anton LaVey claimed television is the major mainstream infiltration for the new satanic religion. The television has simply been replaced with the internet, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter. To tie this all together and end where we began, let's briefly focus on LaVey again. LaVey obviously had experiences starting cults and using techniques like NLP, just like Tate. LaVey states that Satan is simply the ego personified. Can the same be said of Andrew Tate? Is Tate the ego personified? Please don't mince my words. This is not to say that Tate is actually Satan. That's ridiculous. In many ways, as a student of the occult sciences, I admire what Tate has accomplished. Not in an envious or jealous way whatsoever, but to see these occultic principles put into practice in real time, or in the real world, trademark, is impressive. LaVey wrote, "Up is down, pleasure is pain, dark is light, slavery is freedom, madness is sanity." Does it sound familiar to Tate's mantra? Destroy the slave mind. If anything, I think LaVey would admire Tate or what Tate has accomplished. LaVey knew that there's only slaves and masters. There is no in between, mercy or severity, crook or flail. The choice is yours. Now, Tate has said from the very beginning this was a 3-stage plan. Stage 1, create a viable common enemy. Who did Tate choose? The Matrix. Check. Stage 2, prove that the enemy exists. How did Tate accomplish this? Tate gets canceled and arrested, proving the Matrix is out to get him. Check. On to stage 3, checkmate. As I mentioned earlier, Tate's father, Emory, was a linguist for the CIA and the first black grand wizard in chess. In Masonry, the black and white squares of the chessboard is used to symbolize the dualistic nature of reality, a constant cycle of torture and pleasure, then the intake and expelling of energy. The dualistic checkerboard symbolism is used by the Masons because they understand this concept of dualism. Tate understands the goal of the alchemist is solve et coagula. Through the unification of opposites at the atomic level, we begin to gain our power back. This is the end of the white path. This leads me to Tate's family crest, his logo. Tate chose a very specific chess piece as his emblem. A logo is a form of sigil magic. Tate chose the knight. The knight moves 2 squares vertically and 1 square horizontally, or 2 squares horizontally and 1 square vertically. Both make the shape of a capital letter L, or a Mason square. A Mason always stays on the square. Consequently, the knight alternates between light and dark squares with each and every move, just like Tate, who constantly alternates between the light and the dark, the hero and the villain. But to be clear, this is not a hit piece, simply a case study on the occultist known as Emory Andrew Tate III. Thank you so very much for watching. I want to give a special thank you to Vitamin D on YouTube and Ox Wayne on Twitter. I'd also check out Robert Seffer's video on animal magnetism. I'll link all 3 of these videos in the comments. Both of them really helped to put some of these pieces together, but I thought I could definitely add some value to their fine research. Make sure to subscribe to all 3 of those accounts as well. Like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to check out my new books, Piercing the Veil and the Book of Number. I will also link that in the description. Thank you to all my Patreons. It is because of you that this is possible. I am forever grateful for all the love and support. Much love, everybody. Thank you.